Rather lads, welcome back to Kossi's Arsenal podcast. My name is Kossi. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in all parts of the world. Now, Arsenal interested in signing Feran Torres, according to El Nacional. Actually, we were interested in signing him on the deadline day of the window. There is a small possibility that we will go back for Feran Torres in January or even in the summer. And in this video, this is my case against signing Feran Torres. I think it would have been a panic buy, and I think if Arsenal decide to sign Feran Torres, it is 100% against all the things we believe in, especially the qualities a winger should be possessing under Mikel Arteta's system. Now, he's a player that I've looked at. I love him. He's at Barcelona at the moment, and I feel is so good in Xavi's setup, but I don't think he would actually fit Arsenal's setup and the requirements of the Premier League. But what do you think about Feran Torres? How do you rate Feran Torres? That is the question. Is he a player that you feel, if Arsenal signed him, he would bring in some, he would bring in some level of competitiveness to the forward line? And I'm not talking about level-headed competitiveness, but I'm talking about extra competition and extra quality. I mean, I have mixed feelings about him. But anyway, according to El Nacional, this is what they said, that in the latter stages of the window, Arsenal approached Barcelona with a 30 million euros bid for the former Valencia youngster. The report claims that the La Liga club did not dislike the offer, but head coach Xavi made it clear that he was not prepared to lose the Spanish international in the recent window. Arsenal allegedly did not return with a second offer for Torres, having been given no indications that Barcelona would be prepared to let him leave that summer. So, this is the story of Feran Torres. He signed for Manchester City. I think that was last summer, but one. Was it last summer, but one or 2 summers ago? Then, this year in January, he joined FC Barcelona. Of course, he was one of the first players that was signed by Xavi. And I think Xavi looks at him as that kind of Pedro Rodriguez kind of player. Not very, doesn't play very wide, but plays almost centrally and scores many goals. And that is, I think that is his game. Plays centrally and scores many goals. That is that is the key aspect to his game. So Barca signed him in January. I think he has actually not worked out. Xavi, he's one of the most beloved players at Barcelona. He's one of the most beloved players by Xavi. But we've got to agree, it has actually not worked out. If Arsenal decided to sign him, I think it would be our first wrong signing under Mikel Arteta and Edu. Forget the likes of Cedric Soares. Forget the likes of Pablo Mari. I think those were too wrong. Those were very, very wrong signings. But I'm talking about in the last 2-3 summers, starting with the summer where we brought in Thomas Partey, Gabriel Magalhaes, then last summer but one, the likes of Ben White, the likes of Martin Odegaard, and then last summer when we've signed Alexander Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus. You look at the quality of players we're trying to bring in, you look at the strategy, you look at the transfer policy, it is against signing players like Feran Torres. And this is why I feel Feran Torres would have been a panic buy. So, of course, we knew that Arsenal wanted in a winger. We knew that Arsenal wanted to sign a winger in the last few days of the summer. We were looking for a club that could accept 30 million euros in any of their wingers. So we looked at Mikhailo Modric, that is Shakhtar Donetsk. We looked at Pedro Neto, Wolverhampton Wanderers. I think we looked at Moussa Diaby as well, very, very keenly at Bayer Leverkusen. And all those deals didn't actually happen. They could not happen. So I think it was a matter of which club has a player that is going to go for 30 million euros. And I told you this, that it was always the budget. Arsenal didn't sign in a winger, not because we didn't have the right option and we had not yet made enough scouting on players. It was always on the budget. We had 30 million euros. We wanted to split it either to get in a defensive midfielder and a winger, or to get one of them. And I think by the time Arsenal decided that the Douglas Luiz deal is not going to happen, it was too late for us to turn back and find enough space to negotiate for a winger. So that is why we're throwing our money. We're throwing bids in and out of clubs. And Barcelona's Feran Torres would have been one signing would have made on deadline day. But I'm telling you lads, it would have been a panic buy. and a wrong move. I pray that Arsenal don't go back to sign Feran Torres. He's Spanish, and I know he will be starting games for Spain under Luis Enrique, and I don't care, but I'm going to say this. He's not the profile of player Arsenal need, and these are my reasons. Number one, I don't think he stretches the pitch enough. He doesn't hold the width of the pitch. He doesn't it doesn't stretch the length of the pitch. Now, if you look at what Arsenal are trying to do, you look at Saka. You also look at Gabriel Martinelli. The first component, not really component, but the first quality our wingers must have is the ability to stretch the pitch and make it wide and big as possible. And to do that, you need to have the ability to win the ball in 1v1 situations. Now, Feran Torres is a very different kind of forward, and is a very different kind of winger, and that's why I said he's similar to Pedro Rodriguez. Because if you go back and look at how Pedro played at Barcelona with the likes of Xavi, they had one winger who was tasked with spreading the play, stretching the pitch, and then they had another winger who literally played as a second nine, as a second striker, and that is Pedro. Literally, they don't stretch the pitch; they narrow it. Now, for me, Saka is the guy that is supposed to be doing that, and I think still Saka has the ability to stretch the pitch wide. Yes, he's kind of inverted, and that means he doesn't go to the byline. But Saka is better than Feran Torres in wide areas. So if we are looking for someone who can stretch the pitch, who can hold the width and make the pitch bigger, it's not Feran Torres. We've seen at Manchester City, Pep Guardiola has usually played him as a false nine, and that is one of the advantages we would get by signing Feran Torres. That when you lose Gabriel Jesus, currently if Gabriel Jesus is injured, you don't have that kind of guy that comes in and plays his role, drops off the shoulders, off the shoulder runs into the penalty area, coming back and working very hard, through the channels, working the channels very well. That is what Feran Torres does, and I'm really optimistic that Luis Enrique is going to understand that, and then he uses him in that similar way on Spain in the World Cup, because that is his best position. But that is not what Arsenal are looking at, and that is what we want. That is not what we're looking for. We're looking for a winger that could score as many goals as possible, but also beat players in 1v1 situations, stretch the pitch and make it bigger. Christopher Nkunku, for example, very good example. Mo Salah, that caliber of players. Feran Torres is not that guy. So for me, if we're looking for a guy who can stretch the pitch, Feran Torres is not the person. And then is so poor in 1v1 situations. And that is why Barcelona bought Rafinha, and they were desperate to keep Ousmane Dembele. Now, if you look at what Xavi does and what he's trying to do at Barcelona, two wingers that are very, very fast. They're terribly fast, right? Their speed is absolutely terrific. And then you're having them able to beat up wide players in 1v1 situations. Dembele is king at that. Rafinha is king at that. So you must have the pace, and you must be able to beat players 1v1 if you're going to be a modern winger. Because modern wingers are more of a hybrid of the traditional and conventional wingers. They do more rather than just running and crossing the ball. You beat players 1v1. You have to drive at opponents up to the penalty area. You have to give us good layoffs. Your tracking back must be very good. You must have a very good work rate. And then you must be another forward. You must, on top of all that, you need to score as many goals. Now, I'll give it to Feran Torres. He's a very good goal scorer, very clinical, and he's already proven that all the time at Spain. He's a very, very good goal scorer. But if you ask me, is he good in 1v1 situations? Not a chance. I'm not going to give him any benefits of the doubt. He's not good in 1v1 situations. Players like Dembele, players like Rafinha, players like Adama Traore actually are better. You would rather give me Alan Saint-Maxima than Feran Torres if you're giving me a winger, because with Saint-Maxima, I know not very many goals, but the work rate is there. I think it's very, very skilled, and is technically gifted. So Feran Torres, again, the second case against him is his poor form in 1v1 situations. He doesn't have the skill set, and that's why he thrives in clubs that are always on the ball, rather than clubs that will need you to run and take on defenders, and create situations for yourself. So if he plays, for example, at Barcelona and Spain are always on the ball. Barcelona are always on the ball, right? Unless they're playing a bigger opponent, but they're always on the ball. And what that does is it just creates natural spaces for players like Feran Torres running to. The likes of Ansu Fati, Robert Lewandowski are always going to be working the channels. So is Morata at Spain. So all those channels that are being worked, the likes of Feran Torres are going to run through them. And that's why, at Spain, he's fantastic. You get the right system for him, he would be a very fantastic player. But I don't think that is the kind of system that Mikel Arteta is trying to play. I don't think he's the kind, he's the guy for our system. Number 3, I don't think he's done enough in the recent 2 years to go to that 30 million euro market value. I don't think it's really done enough. Because, look, it's so crazy that Man United did buy Anthony for 100 million euros, and I slammed them for doing that. But it's even crazier. It's absolutely crazier that Barcelona did pay a lot of money for Feran Torres from Manchester City. Now, of course, you will understand it was January. Manchester City did not have any pressures to sell. It was always on Barcelona's shoulders to make a case on how urgent they wanted Feran Torres. But for me, he's not worth 30 million euros. And I'm gonna make this bold statement and prediction. It's gonna turn out just like Alvaro Morata. Morata's never been really that kind of bad guy. He's not dropped to the levels of Daniel Welbeck, but he's not convincing. I'm so surprised that whenever Morata makes a move, it is in the regions of 40, 50, 60 million. It's quite fascinating. And for me, that is Feran Torres. He's not worth that 30 million euro mark. It should be costing 50 million euros. It should be costing 20 million euros. He's still young, has a lot of talent, and has a lot of future ahead of him. But for me, currently, 30 million euros, come on, I can get better. I would rather go for Wilfried Zaha because I don't like Zaha's age, right? Age bracket. It doesn't correspond with what we are trying to do as a club. But honestly, I would rather go for Wilfried Zaha for 30 million euros. So and look, the other two attributes I've talked about, he lacks the pace and the strength for me to work out in the Premier League. We've seen it with Gabriel Martinelli and Saka. They were always bullied off the ball until because with physique, the good thing is that you can develop that. That is good. It is not God-given. Physique is attainable. You can easily attain it. And the likes of Alex Sanchez became a little bit stronger when they joined Arsenal and the Premier League. And I think he was a little bit better as a player when he was stronger and able to shield off players like that. But for me, Feran Torres doesn't have that physique. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have that strength to cope up with the demands of the Premier League, with the intensity of the Premier League. And he doesn't have the pace as well. You look at Martinelli, look at Saka. Arsenal's one of our biggest strengths is that we are a team that holds the ball a lot of the time. But we can be so deadly on the break. Gabriel Jesus is lightning quick. Martinelli is lightning quick. And Saka is lightning quick as well. Then you have the likes of Martin Odegaard, who are always going to follow up. And then Jacques, of course, crawling, right? He's always crawling. So for me, he doesn't have that pace I want in a winger. He doesn't have that pace I want in a forward playing, out wide. And finally, he's suited for the Liga. I mean, there's some players that are built for La Liga. There's some players that are built for the Italian Serie A. Honestly, I mean, I'm not even joking. I'll give you an example. Dusan Vlahovic. Vlahovic is an Italian, Italian Serie A player through and through. 100% Italian Serie A. And for me, Feran Torres is a biased La Liga player. Feran Torres is a La Liga player. Get him in the La Liga, and he will. I won't be very surprised if his career just turns around and he goes back to Valencia, or he goes to Villarreal or Sevilla. He's just a La Liga player. I don't see that kind of fight. I don't see that kind of monster mentality that you need in the Premier League. I don't see it. The likes of the mentality of players like Martin Odegaard, not very strong, but you just can't kick him off the ball. Honestly, you just can't bully him off the ball. So for me, lads, yes, Feran Torres signing for Arsenal, not the worst deal in the world, but after surviving that Nicola Pepe deal, I would rather stay away from Feran Torres. But anyway, what are your thoughts on Feran Torres? Make sure you follow me on Instagram, Kosi_19. I'm on Telegram as well, by the way, and on TikTok, Kosi Talks Football. Subscribe to the podcast. Do hit the like button, and I'll speak to you in the next one.